Hey, welcome to my channel. Um, just going to talk about another series finale that I actually ended this week as well too. Hopefully, spoiler alerts. If you haven't seen it, please then watch this video much later. Once you watch this series, once you watched the last episode. Anyways, um, it it was fitting how the show ended. I mean, we all knew that the season was going to end, and I think not the last episode, but the next to last episode, you kind of figured that basically Ted was gonna quit. Basically, the fact where his kid was having issues at school, being bullied or being the bully actually. You knew that something was going on, that he had to be home basically at that point, and he kind of missed home as well too. And then the fact that his mother comes and visits him, saying that your son misses you, you know full well at that point, or at least there was inclinations that he was pretty much going to go back to the states at that point. So that's one thing we saw. Of course, you see in the entire last episode, basically, there's a lot of references way back to the first episode, of course, as well too. The pilot episode. You got the coach dancing. You've got basically, or the first season at least, the last episode referring to a pilot episode about the first season more than anything else. Where you've got Lasso basically dancing with when he won the state football championships, or national title, or Division Two title. I can't remember exactly what it was, for collegiate football, and then of course coming here, into playing football in for Richmond, winning the game and doing the little dance as well at that point as well too, and then also references to when the collection was being made. Into the box, where originally in the first season you had Jamie Tart basically putting in gum into the box, where now he's putting in cash, which was interesting as well. And then of course there are other references as well too, was the Oscar play. If you saw, basically it's more of a case where Nate the Great, or Nate, made the play, or gave the suggestion of the play of having Jamie Tart being a distraction in one of the episodes, and Tart, basically was not all for it anyways, like going with the Oscar, give me the ball, give me the ball. And then in the last episode, you see basically Tart actually doing that, being the distraction, giving Sam the ability to score the goal at that point. And then also the other factors as well, let's not forget, with the reference of the very last scene as well too, where Lasso basically is talking to his son, missing the ball, giving that a bit of advice. Same advice he actually gave to Sam as well too when he did the exact same thing. Or was it Sam? I can't remember. Or was it? I forgot the guy's name. The big guy, the captain, that did it as well too. I forgot it was one of those two. I can't remember now, to be honest with you. But it was interesting for that aspect. And then of course, then there's the other aspect as well too, is where the fans calling Ted Lasso a wanker, and then at the final, in the final episode, of course, now it's been reverted back to Rupert being the wanker at that point, which was pretty funny. And I think it wasn't lost on Ted at that point as well too. And then we saw, of course, and there was also, of course, there was that Easter egg where, when the coach was in the airport, there was a selfie that he was taking. In that situation, it's the same person where he was coming from the States into London, and that same individual actually took a selfie back then on the plane as well too, referring to him as being the coach dancing and all that stuff. So that was pretty funny. And that was interesting in and of itself as well too, quite honestly. So those are two aspects. That was pretty interesting. Not two aspects. Those are some like callbacks to it. The one thing though is I don't think anyone noticed was when May, after Rebecca gave 49% back to the fans, and some of the fans you saw in the pub, May had a whole stack of options in the company, in the team itself. She does a sort of correction or fixing of the painting or portrait of Geronimo, or I guess Geronimo, or some Native American, on there. I keep forgetting the name actually, but it was a reference to way back to Cheers, where Sam Malone in the final episode of Cheers, he does the exact same thing in that situation, and that was a nod to Cheers, of course. And the fact is let's not forget, Jason Sudeikis is a nephew to George Wendt, who was Norm on Cheers. So that's one of those things where he always makes, like, you'll see some subtle Easter egg nods towards George Wendt's character, to Cheers itself, basically, from that. So that was pretty interesting, and I was like, I kind of saw that. I'm like, wait, were they making it? And then it hit me like, oh, they're making a reference. I didn't realize that Sudeikis was. I kept forgetting that Sudeikis was Wendt's nephew, basically. And then of course, you had that scene where basically, Coach Beard, which surprisingly I had no idea Coach Beard was actually his first name is Willis, which caught me off guard. Um, it was one of those things where I guess that's his actual name, and where Beard or Willis, or in this case, Coach Beard, needed to get off the airplane to go, basically be with his girlfriend. And then there was also, of course, the night, of course, where Coach Beard directing Nate to where the believe sign should be, the fixed up believe sign, versus the first season where you saw Nate, not Nate, but more of Ted Lasso putting up the sign, and Coach Beard actually directing him where it should be at that point as well too. In this situation, it was both Nate and um, oh, I forgot his name now. Uh, oh man, I'm drawing a blank for some reason. Nate and um, I gotta look it up now. Holy cow, this is a first. Uh, Nate and Roy Kent. Sorry, Roy Kent. That was very interesting as well too. Oh, as well as to the point where Ted Lasso making that golden nugget of advice. I think it was either Sam or Isaac. I can't remember what it was. But anyways, you had Roy Kent basically with Nate on top of him, basically moving the thing. So it was cool. I think it was a nod to the fact that these two are going to be hand in hand coaches to the team itself, even though Roy Kent was made the manager of the team itself. And then of course you had that other aspect as well too, where Keely was two aspects with Keely. Keely with when she was putting the trunk down, Roy being there. That was reference to I think season 2 of that as well too, or late episode, late season 1 or early season 2. I can't remember now. And then of course, then there was the other aspect of Keely walking into the men's room with her eyes closed. First not to the pilot episode as well too, from that perspective. So it was pretty interesting to see all that stuff and like how everything was tied together. And I honestly liked and enjoyed how the show ended, to the point where people have always had issues with series endings. And it was, I think, that situation where basically Coach Beard was explaining that nothing is perfect. Perfection is boring because everyone wants that perfect ending. In this situation, there's nothing that you do to make it a perfect, perfect as a perfect ending. And if it was, it would have been boring, a boring ending at that point too, right? Quite honestly. So I think from there, that's why you saw Coach, that reference being in that aspect, because it was the same thing with Cheers. I think some people thought it was an ending, but they thought it wasn't a perfect ending. And so from this, I think that was a direction to the fans, things like, look, you might not like the ending, you may like the ending, but it's not going to be perfect. But again, perfection is boring. Why would you want to be perfect when you have some idiosyncrasies of, or not idiosyncrasies, but more of like some nuances that leave things open for the fans to discuss at that point as well too. And of course, Rebecca keeping 51% of the company and being super rich at that point as well too is another factor, which makes it easier. And then of course you had Leslie basically having the team coming in for barbecue, which refers back to the whole Christmas scene, basically, where like the entire team comes in to have Christmas dinner with them basically at that point. So that was a great nod at that point as well too, quite honestly. And of course Rebecca meeting the pilot and bringing him to let everyone introduce him basically to everyone at that point. And of course the one thing that caught me off guard, which we know it's true, but Danny Rojas, life is football is life. Basically having two girlfriends, or it seemed like it was two girlfriends basically. I was like, yep, that's typical Danny Rojas, of course. So it was really interesting from there as well too. From that, I'll leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts. Do you think it was a great ending? Do you think that there should be another season of Ted Lasso? I mean, it's a possibility they might have a spin-off of it anyways. But did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you think it was a perfect ending, or did you think it was not a perfect ending? And of course, with always, please leave a comment in the comment section. I do respond to them when I get notified. If I don't, I do apologize. It might take me a bit because I don't get notified, or two might not it might not warrant a response for that matter too, because you might have eloquently put it out there. So I was like, if I don't respond, chances are I eloquently agree with you at that point too. I mean, you put it so eloquently that I agree with you, and why respond to something that's so eloquently done? And from that perspective, in any case, also, if you like my video, like my content, and like my channel, please subscribe if you haven't subscribed. If you don't like my channel, don't like my videos, but still watch it, Again, I also ask if subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and also please hit the like or dislike button. I kind of could tell, like, of course, it's one of those things where, like, I don't know which content to focus on a lot. I'd like to be all over the board. At the same time, it's more of a case where if I know what people like more, I might focus on more on that content. And also the other aspect is I do welcome feedback and criticism. So please leave that in the comment section. I will not. Do not worry. It won't hurt my feelings or anything like that. But with that, I'll leave it at that. Unfiltered, unedited, and unrehearsed. Until next time.